My aunt posted a video exposing my parents, calling me a freeloader despite all I've done for them. My name is Cameron, and I grew up in the shadow of a star. That star represented my older sister, Lily. Our house was usually full of people, uncles, aunts, cousins, you name it. They'd crowd into our backyard like ants at a picnic, drawn by the promise of my mother's wonderful barbecue and the opportunity to see Lily play. Our backyard was like a stage with its beautifully groomed lawn and the large oak tree providing the perfect backdrop. Dad would light the grill, the aroma of charcoal and sizzling meat filling the air, while Mom went around making sure everyone had a drink in hand. "Lily, sweetie," Aunt Marge would call out, her voice cutting through the din. "Why don't you give us a little song?" All eyes would immediately turn to my sister. Lily would bounce onto a chair, her golden curls bouncing and a naughty sparkle in her eyes. She'd clear her throat dramatically and then, like magic, belt out "My Heart Will Go On" in her best Celine Dion impersonation. The adults would go wild, clapping and yelling as if they were at a live concert. Mom and Dad were beaming with joy, and Dad frequently wiped a tear from his eye. Meanwhile, I'd stand to the side, attempting to blend in with the shrubs. It wasn't that I didn't want to participate, but every time I opened my mouth to sing, it sounded like a cat being strangled. What about poetry? Forget about it. The words would jumble on my tongue, leaving me red-faced and stammering. My family has whispered that I am so unlike my sister. Not only were the relatives present, but Mom and Dad made it plain who the family star was. While Lily was shuttled between ballet courses, singing lessons, and art workshops, I was left to my own devices. Not that I cared much. I sought refuge in the dusty old books that adorned our shelf. The only person who appeared to understand me was Great Aunt Maggie. She'd discover me hidden behind the garage or in the treehouse, nose buried in a book. "What adventure are you on today, Cameron?" she'd ask, snuggling down next to me. I would look up, thankful for the interruption. "Oh, just reading about ancient Egypt," I'd say, showing her the cover of my most recent find. Maggie nodded, her eyes gleaming. "You have a good head on your shoulders, girl. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise." Those moments with Maggie were like a balm for my soul. She did not ask me to perform or be anything other than who I was. With her, I could simply be Cameron, the quiet, bookish girl who preferred the company of paper and ink to the commotion of family gatherings. But as much as I treasured those memories, they couldn't take away the agony of being the neglected child. Every time Lily learned a new song or received an award, my parents would lavish her with praise and gifts. New clothes, the latest electronics, you name it, Lily got it. What about me? I received hand-me-downs and sighs of frustration. School became my refuge. While I wasn't the most popular student, I did find my rhythm in class. I wasn't content to simply sit there and let the lessons wash over me. No, I was determined to understand what the lecturer stated. "Mrs. Thompson," I'd say after class, my voice soft but steady, "could you please explain that bit about meiosis again?" I didn't quite understand it. She would smile, clearly pleased with my involvement. "Of course, Cameron. Why don't we discuss it together?" If a teacher couldn't spare the time, I'd request book recommendations. My backpack quickly became overloaded with extra reading material. I'd stay up late studying those books, trying to master every subject. All of that hard work paid off. By the time I entered high school, I was at the top of my class. For once in my life, I was the best at something. I even made a few friends, other bookworms who didn't mind my quiet personality. As graduation approached, our home became Lily Central. Mom was continuously assisting her in putting together her portfolio for the advertising and public relations department at a prestigious college. "Oh, honey, this campaign idea is perfect," Mom would enthuse when she looked at Lily's work. "You're so talented." I'd roll my eyes and retreat to my room, engrossed in my studies. But one night, over yet another family meal centered on Lily's college ambitions, something in me broke. "I'm going to college too," I blurted out. "I want to study management." The hush that ensued was deafening. Then, to my surprise and hurt, they all started laughing. "Oh, sweetie," Mom murmured, brushing away her tears. "We don't have the money for that. You need to acquire a job following graduation. You're simply not as talented as your sister." I felt as though I had been slapped. But I'm the top student in my class," I stammered, angry and embarrassed. "I get straight A's." I raced inside my room and returned with my report card, slamming it on the table. They all leaned in to look, their eyes widening in amazement. "Well, I'll be damned," Dad said, scratching his head. "When did this happen?" It's been happening for years, I snapped. Not that any of you ever noticed. Mom had the decency to show shame. Cameron, we had no idea, she began, but Dad interrupted her. Well, that doesn't do anything. We spent all of our savings on Lily's education. There is nothing left for you, Cameron. I'm sorry, but that's simply how things are. You'll work at my cousin Frank's restaurant after graduation. I turned and ran, ignoring their calls. I rushed up the stairs to my room, slamming the door so hard that the walls trembled. As I dropped onto my bed, sobbing coursed through my body. I felt something inside me tighten. Fine, I thought, clenching my fists. If they don't help me, I'll find another method. I'll show them all what Cameron can do. The following several months were a blur. Lily left for college, accompanied by sad goodbyes and triumphant parental embraces. Meanwhile, I redoubled my efforts in my studies, aiming to graduate at the top of my class. During this period, I found myself spending increasingly more time with Great Aunt Maggie. Her little, pleasant abode became my safe haven from the stress at home. One afternoon, while we sipped tea in her bright kitchen, she asked me the question I had been dreading. So, Cameron, she asked, her sympathetic eyes fixated on mine. What are your plans after graduation? I looked into my teacup, fighting back tears. I'm not sure, Aunt Maggie. Mom and Dad will not assist me with college. They claim there is no money left after paying for Lily's education. Maggie was quiet for a time before reaching across the table and squeezing my hand. Cameron, dear, I have some savings. I would like to give these to you for college. You're as brilliant as a whip, and I'll be damned if I let that brain of yours go to waste. The reality of her words struck me like a tidal wave. I fell into tears, stunned by her generosity and the understanding that my dreams had not died after all. Thank you, I sobbed and threw my arms around her. Thank you so much, Aunt Maggie. The months passed quickly, and before I knew it, I was walking across the stage at graduation, diploma in hand. As I searched the crowd, I noticed Aunt Maggie smiling at me. My parents were also present, looking proud but uncomfortable. Mom rolled in one evening as I was poring over college brochures. Cameron, honey, she continued, her voice sickeningly sweet. Your father's cousin Frank has called. He has a waitressing position for you at his restaurant. Isn't this exciting? I took a deep breath. Actually, Mom, I won't need that job. I am going to college. Dad appeared at the doorway, displeased. And how exactly do you plan to pay for that? Aunt Maggie is assisting me. I stated, my chin held high. She's giving me her savings for tuition. The stunned hush that ensued was almost hilarious. Then, to my surprise, Dad's face became red with fury. Absolutely not, he exclaimed. If Maggie has any money to spare, it should go to Lily. She wants a car for her advertising job following graduation next year. I couldn't believe what I heard. Are you serious? I spat. This is my chance to get an education, to make something of myself. Don't be selfish, Cameron, Mom interjected. Your sister needs that money more than you do. No, I replied, my voice shaky but firm. This is my money now, and I'm spending it on education. End of discussion. From then on, living at home became miserable. My parents either ignored me totally or yelled at me for the tiniest things. The tension was suffocating. After a particularly scathing dispute, I called Aunt Maggie in tears and revealed everything. Pack your bags, sweetheart, she stated without hesitation. You're moving in with me. The next day, I packed my belongings into a cab and drove away, watching my childhood home shrink in the rearview mirror. As I drove up to Aunt Maggie's house, I felt a weight lift off my shoulders. The summer went by in a blur of preparation, and before I knew it, I was walking onto the campus of State University. Thanks to my excellent grades and Aunt Maggie's generosity, I was accepted into the management program of my dreams. My first day of school, I felt like I was flying on air. As I sat in my introduction to business course, taking in every word, I couldn't help but think, I did it. I'm actually here. Meanwhile, Lily began her final year at her posh institution. I hadn't heard much from her or my parents since I moved out, but I tried not to be concerned. I was too busy enjoying my newfound independence and the exhilaration of college life. However, around a month into the semester, Aunt Maggie phoned me. Cameron, dear, she started tentatively. I think you should sit down for this. My pulse raced as she told me about the family drama I had missed. Lily apparently showed up at home unexpectedly, expressing her decision to drop out of college. What's the reason? She was pregnant. Aunt Maggie claimed Lily had been cavalier about the whole situation. Oh, don't worry, she'd said, tossing her hair. The baby's father is wealthy. We'll get married soon. But the narrative did not stop there. It came out that Lily's boyfriend was not as serious as she imagined. When he discovered she'd also been sleeping with his pal, all hell broke loose. They didn't even know who the father was, Aunt Maggie sighed. I sat there, phone pressed against my ear, trying to digest everything. Part of me felt a sick sense of satisfaction. The golden child had fallen from her pedestal. But ultimately, I was sad for Lily and the mess she had gotten herself into. The saga continued for several months. Aunt Maggie kept me informed of all the gossip from the family parties I no longer attended. When Lily's kid was born, a DNA test proved that her boyfriend was the father. But instead of the fairy tale wedding Lily had hoped for, he just agreed to pay child support. The ultimate blow came when Lily, desperate for employment, accepted a position as a server at Cousin Frank's restaurant, the same job my parents had tried to force on me. As I hung up the phone, I experienced a flurry of emotions. A small, petty part of me wanted to brag, to rub my accomplishment in my family's faces. But ultimately, I felt deeply grateful for where I was and how far I'd come. For years passed in a flurry of lectures, tests, and late-night study sessions. Before I knew it, I was walking across the stage at graduation, clutching my hard-earned management degree. As I searched the crowd, I noticed Aunt Maggie smiling at me, tears of pride in her eyes. My outstanding grades and glowing references from my instructors helped me obtain a job as a manager at the Gilded Fork, one of the city's most prominent restaurants. The compensation exceeded my expectations, and for the first time in my life, I felt truly accomplished. I knew what I wanted to accomplish after receiving my first paycheck. I marched into the electronics store and purchased the most recent smartphone for Aunt Maggie. Her face brightened up as I showed it to her. "Oh, Cameron," she said, turning the sleek device over in her hands. "This is too much." I grinned and pulled out my own phone. "Not at all. Now let me show you how to utilize it." I spent the following 3 weeks teaching Aunt Maggie the ins and outs of social media. She took to it like a duck to water, particularly enjoying Facebook's video feature. Her page quickly filled up with videos of her garden, cat, and the fabled apple pie in various stages of preparation. During my lunch breaks, I'd view her videos and give comments and likes. It was our method of remaining in touch, even when work kept me busy. My phone buzzed one day when I was getting ready for the dinner rush. I looked at it, astonished to find my mother's name on the screen. We hadn't spoken for years. "Cameron," she said hesitantly, "we were hoping you might come over to talk." After a lengthy delay, I consented. That Sunday, I was standing on the porch of my childhood house, my hand hanging over the doorbell. Before I could press it, the door opened. "Cameron," my mother drew me into a close hug. "Oh, sweetie, it's so good to see you." Inside, I found my father, Lily, and a toddler who I assumed was my niece. The atmosphere was tense but not aggressive, as I had imagined. "You look good, kiddo," Dad observed, his tone stern yet loving. "We hear you're doing well for yourself." I nodded, being apprehensive. "I am. I currently work as a manager at the Gilded Fork." Their eyes opened at the restaurant's name. Mother cleared her throat. "That's amazing, sweetie. Actually, that is one of the reasons we wanted to speak with you." Over the next hour, they apologized for how they had treated me, confessing their mistake and dismissing my potential. Then came the true reason for the gathering. "Cameron," Mom remarked, looking at Lily, "we were hoping. Well, we were wondering if you might be able to help Lily get a job at your restaurant." I looked at my sister, who was bouncing her daughter on her knee. She refused to meet my gaze. "I'll see what I can do," I concluded. "No promises, but I'll ask." True to my word, I spoke with the restaurant owner, Mr. Reeves, about Lily. To my astonishment, he agreed to give her a chance as an administrator. Lily began the following week. I watched her intently, half expecting her to fail or make trouble. But to my surprise, she excelled. She was punctual and efficient, and her customers adored her charm. As the weeks went by, I found myself becoming more relaxed with her. We weren't best buddies by any means, but we had a good professional connection. Just when I thought I had it all figured out, the universe decided to throw me another curveball, this time a good one. Mr. Reeves called me into his office one day. My heart raced, and I wondered whether I had done something wrong. Instead, he winked at me and asked, "Cameron, how would you like to help me expand the business?" Before I knew it, I was overseeing the opening of 3 more restaurants. My days became a blur of staff meetings, food tastings, and data crunching. It was grueling, exhilarating, and all I could have imagined. The promotion included a large pay increase, and I suddenly found myself with more money than I knew what to do with. That's when my parents' call started. At first, it was just minor issues. "The roof is leaking," Mom would say, her tone apprehensive. "We were wondering if you might be able to help out a little." I was amazed at how nice it felt to say yes and fix their difficulties with a simple transfer of dollars. It began with the roof, then a new water heater, and before long, I was financing a full home restoration. As their financial position improved thanks to my monthly allowance, the famed family parties resumed. However, when I attended, things were different. "Have you heard about Cameron's latest project?" Mom would gush to her family. "She is opening a new restaurant downtown. We are so proud of her." When I caught Lily's eye across the room, she gave me a little smile. She was also doing well, having been appointed to head administrator at the Gilded Fork. "My girls," Dad would say, putting one arm around each of us, both of them making their old man proud. A part of me wanted to be bitter, to remind them of how they had treated me previously, but a greater part savored the warmth of their approval, something I'd coveted for so long. As I drove home that night, I felt a wave of contentment rush over me. After all these years, I finally got everything I'd always wanted: professional achievement and the love and appreciation of my family. I was the golden kid now. But more importantly, I was my own woman, able to stand on my own 2 feet. It was a quiet Sunday afternoon when my world collapsed around me. I was sipping my coffee and surfing through Facebook when I noticed Aunt Maggie had posted a new video. It was from one of the family events I had missed because of job obligations. I smiled and clicked play, expecting to witness the usual scenes of laughter and merriment. What I saw instead caused my blood to run cold. My parents appeared in full color, their cheeks flushed with drink and self-righteousness. Mom was gesticulating madly, her voice slurred yet clear. "And Cameron, that ungrateful little freeloader," she said. "She rarely provides us anything. We're not made of money, you understand." Dad joined in, his cheeks flushed. "That's correct. We're doing okay, thanks to Lily. She's the one who keeps that pricey restaurant going. Cameron only rides on her coattails." The video proceeded with several family members nodding and expressing their own criticisms. Lily sat in the corner, looking uncomfortable but not challenging them. As the film concluded, I sat there shocked. How could they? After everything I'd done for them, all the money I'd given them, how could they turn around and say such horrible, false things? With trembling palms, I scrolled down to the comments. I noticed a torrent of messages from my folks. "Maggie, erase this video right away. You have no right to post that. Take it down immediately." But Aunt Maggie's reaction brought me to tears. "I'm not sure how to delete videos, and even if I could, I wouldn't. It's time everyone knew the truth about how you treat Cameron. She's the one that helps you, and this is how you reciprocate her kindness? Shame on you both." I stayed there for what seemed like hours, watching the video and rereading the comments. The treachery struck deep, reopening scars that I believed were healed. I finally picked up the phone and dialed Aunt Maggie's number. "Oh, Cameron dear," she replied in response, her voice filled with sorrow. "I take it you've seen the video?" "Yeah," I said, my throat scratchy from crying. "I cannot believe it, Aunt Maggie. How could they?" I could hear the rage in her voice when she responded. "They have always been like this, Cameron. You just haven't been there to witness it. I'm sorry you had to find out this way, but it might be for the best. You deserve to know the truth." We talked for hours, Aunt Maggie supporting me while I alternated between disbelief, rage, and grief. As darkness fell, I reached a decision. "I'm cutting them off," I told Aunt Maggie, my voice steady despite my sadness. "There's no more money. There is no more aid. They made their bed, and now they may lie in it." The days following the video disclosure were some of the most difficult of my life. My phone was continuously buzzing with messages and calls from my folks, but I couldn't bring myself to respond. Their comments, so nasty and false, ran on repeat in my thoughts. After a week of silence, I wrote them a short, frigid text. "I've watched the video. I know exactly what you think of me. Do not contact me again. The money stops now." Their responses poured in immediately. At first, they apologized. "Cameron, we're very sorry. We did not mean any of it. Please forgive us." But as the days passed, and I remained silent, their melody shifted. "We are your parents. You owe us." Each message twisted the knife deeper, but I remained steadfast. I had given them numerous opportunities, but they had turned them all down. It was time to stop the loop. Lily, strangely, remained out of it. At work, she was the epitome of efficiency and professionalism. If she felt any anger at losing our parents' financial assistance, she didn't show it. Our interactions were pleasant but distant. "I'm not taking sides," she told me one day following a staff meeting. "It's between you and them." I nodded, respecting her impartiality, even if a part of me wished she would stand up for me. But I understood she needed to focus on her own child right now. As the weeks progressed to months, I found myself relying greatly on Aunt Maggie. Our Sunday video conversations were the highlight of my week. She'd regale me with stories from her garden or her most recent baking escapade, delivering a much-needed dose of normality in the midst of my chaotic life. "You're doing the right thing, Cameron," she'd tell me when I had reservations. "Don't let them manipulate you anymore." To my astonishment, more relatives began to reach out. Cousin Sarah, who had always been nice to me at family occasions, wrote me a meaningful email. "I watched the video, Cameron. I want you to know that I believe you're fantastic. What you've accomplished, how you've assisted everyone. You're an inspiration. Do not let anyone tell you otherwise." Uncle Bob, Dad's brother, called me unexpectedly. "Kid, I've watched you grow into this beautiful woman. Your parents are fools if they don't recognize how special you are. Keep in mind that you have relatives on your side." These words of encouragement were like balm to my broken heart. I understood that while I had lost my parents, I had gained a family that valued me for who I was. As the year came to a close, Mr. Reeves invited me into his office. I went in, anxious, wondering if the family stress had influenced my professional performance. Instead, he smiled warmly and announced, "Cameron, I am retiring next year. I want you to take over as CEO of the restaurant group." I stood there, stunned into silence. Finally, I stammered out, "Are you sure?" He nodded, his eyes sparkling. "I have never been more certain about anything in my life. You've earned it, Cameron. You are the reason this company has thrived. It's time you took control." As I exited his office, my mind racing with possibilities, I realized something profound. The little girl who had been overlooked and undervalued had grown into a lady who had exceeded everyone's expectations, even her own.